Hello everyone, welcome to this series of lectures on the course Calculus and Numerical Methods. This is part 3 of the second chapter, Sequences and their Convergence. In this video, we will look at some basic properties of convergent sequences. Now, in our last two videos, we have seen what are sequences and we also saw convergent sequences. When do we say that a sequence converges? Right? So enough examples are done on convergent sequences. So now we are ready to look at some properties of sequences. So let's look at the first property. Supposing I have one sequence, okay, let's say let xn be a sequence such that this sequence xn converges to a point x and it also converges to a point y. Okay, I have a sequence which I am assuming is converging to 2 points x and y. Now all this while in the last video, when we were talking about the limit of the sequence, whenever we estimated or guessed one limit, we used to use the definition and show that that point is actually the limit. So once we found one limit, we never went on to check whether there is one more limit or no, right? So this somewhere tells me that if a sequence converges, then it should converge to only one point and it cannot converge to two different points. Okay, so if you have a sequence xn which converges to x and y, then the point x and the point y will be the same points. Then x is equal to y. This is the first property of convergent sequences. Fine. So let's see what is given and what we have to prove. We are given that xn converges to x and xn converges to y. This is given. We have to prove that x is equal to y. Right? So let's start. Supposing epsilon is some positive number. Some positive number, any arbitrary number you can pick up. Now what I will do is, to show that x is equal to y, I will use one of the results that we did in the first chapter. If you remember, this was one of the results in chapter 1. If modulus of x is less than epsilon for every epsilon positive, then I can say that this number x is equal to 0. Okay, I might have used some other notation instead of x, but this is the idea. So if modulus of some number is less than epsilon for every epsilon positive, then that number itself is 0. Okay, so this is what I will be using to show that x is equal to y. Now xn converges to x, it's given to us, right? Xn converges to x. That means what? By definition, if I give you any epsilon positive, then since xn converges to x, for epsilon by 2 I will tell you why epsilon by 2 I am picking up. There exists a natural number n1 such that for all n bigger than or equal to this n1, this difference xn minus x can be made less than the epsilon that I started with. I started with epsilon by 2 now, so this will be less than epsilon by 2. I will call this as statement number 1, right? So I made the use of the fact that xn is converging to x, but I also know that xn is converging to y. Also, xn converges to y, right? Since xn converges to y, what can I say? Given any epsilon positive. Now that works for any positive number, so it will work for epsilon by 2 also. So for this epsilon positive, Because epsilon is positive, epsilon by 2 is also positive. I can find one more natural number, I will call it n2 in this case, such that for all n bigger than or equal to this n2, the difference between the sequence and the limit xn minus y is less than epsilon by 2. I will call this as statement number 2, right? So I have the estimate of xn minus x and I also have the estimate xn minus y. Now what does statement 1 say? Supposing this is my real line, it says there is a natural number n1 here, n1, such that this condition, that is xn minus x is less than epsilon by 2, works for all numbers small n which are bigger than or equal to n1. So for all these numbers here which are bigger than or equal to n1, the first statement works, right? Now let me come to the second statement. In second statement, I have a natural number n2, right? So it will be somewhere on the number line, either less than n1 or bigger than n1. So I'll just assume that it is somewhere here. It is somewhere. Alright, so I will put that in red, the n2 one here. Okay. Now what does the second condition say? It says for all natural numbers which are bigger than or equal to this n2, this difference xn minus y is less than epsilon by 2. So this condition works for all natural numbers which are bigger than or equal to n2. So these natural numbers now which are bigger than or n2 are here where I am marking in red. So for n1, for all numbers which are bigger than or equal to n1, condition 1 works, the statement 1 holds, and for all numbers which are bigger than or equal to n2, the statement 2 works. Now what I need is, I need one natural number for which both the conditions will work. So out of this n1 and n2, which one I will pick up in such a way that both the conditions are working for that natural number? Can you think for a while? If you see, n2 works for all these numbers where I marked red, but the second condition works for all the numbers which I marked in red, but it does not work for the numbers here between n1 and n2. But the statement 1, it works for all the points after n2 also, because it works for all numbers which are bigger than n1. So if I pick up n2 now, for all numbers which are bigger than or equal to n2, both the statements 1 as well as 2 will work, right? So out of n1 and n2, which one I'm going to pick up here? In this case, n2. But what if the situation is somewhat like this? What if n2 is here and n1 is here? Then n1 will be these points and n2 will be these points. In this case, I will be picking up n1. So which one are we picking up? Can you make this observation? We pick up the maximum between n1 and n2, the one which is on the right side. That's the maximum, the bigger one. Okay. So I need one natural number now. So I will choose that natural number to be maximum of n1 and n2. Okay. So choose a natural number capital N now to be maximum of the natural numbers n1 and n2. So their maximum will be 1 of 2. And for this maximum, statement 1 as well as statement 2 is going to hold. Right, as you can see from the diagram. So what I know now, for all numbers which are bigger than or equal to the maximum, that is capital N. So for all n bigger than or equal to capital N, statement 1 as well as statement 2 will work. Okay. Therefore, for all n bigger than or equal to n, xn minus x is less than epsilon by 2 and xn minus y is also less than epsilon by 2. Is it clear? Now what I wanted to show, we wanted to show that x is equal to y, right? So I will start with modulus of x minus y. So I have to show that, see, I'm using that property here. That is my final aim. The one right on top which I put in box. If modulus of some number is less than epsilon, then that number itself is 0. So if I show that modulus of x minus y is less than epsilon for every epsilon positive, then this number inside the modulus will be 0. So x minus y will be 0 and hence x will be equal to y. Alright. So that is the idea. So what I can do now, I already have estimate of xn minus x and xn minus y. And I have x and y with me here. So what I can do to get xn minus x and xn minus y? I need xn's, two xn's I need, right? So I will add and subtract xn here in this way. This is already there, right? So I'm adding xn and I'm subtracting xn. So it remains the same, right? So I can write this as, I will rearrange the terms. I need xn minus x. So I will write this xn first, that's here. Then I will write, sorry, I won't pick up this xn here. I will write x here, the first one, minus I will pick up this xn here. Okay, and then I will put this xn and then minus y here. See if that's okay. So I've only rearranged the terms here. It's the same. Now I will take this as my a, x minus xn as a, plus I will take this as my b. And I have an expression of the form modulus of a plus b. Now triangle inequality will come to a help. We know that modulus of a plus b is less than or equal to modulus of a plus modulus of b. So I will apply this here. So this will be less than or equal to modulus of a, that is x minus xn, plus modulus of xn minus y. This is by triangle inequality. Fine. But I know that modulus of a minus b is same as modulus of b minus a. This result I know, right? So I can interchange these two. Xn minus x, I can write it, and the other one I will keep as it is. Now what do I know about xn minus x? If I go on top, there see the first line, xn minus x, that modulus is less than epsilon by 2, and this is also less than epsilon by 2, modulus of xn minus y. So the first term is less than epsilon by 2. The second term is also less than epsilon by 2. So I will use that estimate here. So this is strictly less than, I can call this as star. This is strictly less than epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2. And now what is their sum? That is epsilon. So this is coming, okay, I can put it down. So this is equal to epsilon. So this is coming by the statement star. So what did we show? Epsilon is any arbitrary point, right? So we showed that modulus of x minus y, therefore modulus of x minus y is less than epsilon for every epsilon positive. And by the result I stated, this implies this number inside the modulus, that is x minus y is equal to 0, and this implies x is equal to y. This is what we wanted to show, and hence we have proved what we wanted to show. So why did I start with epsilon by 2 in the beginning? If you see, this epsilon by 2 I started because I wanted to add epsilon by 2 and epsilon by 2 at the end stage here. Okay, at this stage I wanted to add them. So if I had picked up epsilon and epsilon here, I would have got 2 epsilon. Even that is okay. But finally I wanted epsilon here. Okay, because that's how we have been doing things. Okay, so this shows that the limits are unique. So if a sequence converges, it should converge to a unique limit, and that's what this theorem says. Okay. So this was the first property, and this is called uniqueness of limits. So I can put it down, uniqueness of limits. All right. So if a sequence converges, it has to converge to a unique limit. It cannot converge to two different limits. That's what we proved. Now moving on to the next property, the second one. Supposing I have a sequence xn which converges to a point x. Okay. So in this chapter, as I mentioned earlier, we are only talking about sequences whose terms are real numbers. So we are talking about only real sequences, right? So supposing I have a sequence xn which converges to a real number x, and that point x is also a real number. Okay, let xn be a real sequence such that xn converges to the point x, where x is also a real number. Okay, where x is a real number. Okay, so I have a sequence which converges to the point x, that's given to me. Now what we will do is we will fix one natural number, capital N. Fix one natural number and I call it capital N. Let's say 1000. You keep in your mind that this N is 1000. Okay, or any favorite number you like, you can keep N, but it should be a natural number, right? Now based on this first sequence, I will define another sequence. So define a sequence yn such that yn is equal to xn for terms after this natural number, such that yns are equal to xn's for all n which are bigger than or equal to this capital N. Can you understand what is happening here? I will complete the statement and then I can give you a geometric idea of this, what this statement is talking about. Okay, then the sequence yn also converges to the point x. So let me give you a brief idea of what the statement is saying. Okay, now I have a sequence xn which converges to x. That is the first thing I know. Secondly, we have fixed one natural number which is capital N. That's here. And this natural number is in your mind. I have told you to keep one number in your mind. Now, I have my natural numbers here 1, 2, 3. Somewhere this natural number n will come. After that, n plus 1 will come. Before that, n minus 1 will come. And this natural numbers keep on going after this also. Right? So, xn is a sequence that is given to me. From xn, I am defining one more sequence and I am calling it yn. Okay, I'll say define a sequence yn such that after this natural number capital N, that means when I take all the natural numbers after capital N, okay, the terms of the sequence xn and yn are the same for all natural numbers small n which are bigger than or equal to this capital N. That means what? X capital N is equal to y capital N. X capital N plus 1 is equal to y capital N plus 1. Right? X capital N plus 2 is equal to y capital N plus 2 and so on. Understanding? So after this natural number n, the sequence xn and yn are the same. Now, what is happening to the sequence yn before the natural number n I am not interested in. It could be any real numbers. Okay. So y1, y2, y3 up till yn minus 1. Y capital N minus 1 could be any real numbers here. I am not interested in them. Okay. What I know, after the natural number n, after this step, the terms of the sequence xn and yn are same. Right. So I can say that there exists a stage after which the terms xn and yn are the same, and that stage is this capital N. Then the sequence yn also will converge to the same point to which the sequence xn was converging, that is x. So this tells us that even if you remove the initial first some terms, finitely many terms of a sequence, that does not affect the convergence of the sequence. Okay. If I have a sequence now, and let's say I remove first 500 terms of that sequence, I will get a new sequence. Now the new sequence will converge to the same point where the original sequence was converging. Okay. So this is what I have to establish now, right? So what are the things that are given to us? Xn converges to x, that's given to us. So we will make use of that. Let epsilon be any positive arbitrary number. Okay. Now since xn converges to x, for this epsilon positive, there exists a natural number, I will call it n1, such that for all natural numbers bigger than or equal to that n1, xn minus x will be less than epsilon, right? And this is my rough work, so I will just put it in a box here. Yeah. So there exists a natural number n1 such that after the stage n1, difference between xn and x is less than epsilon. That is the definition of convergence of a sequence, right? So I have now with me two natural numbers at this stage. The first natural number is capital N that I fixed somewhere here, and the second natural number is n1 that I just obtained, right? Now after the natural number capital N, what I know, xn is equal to y. So after this stage, that condition works, xn is equal to y. And after n1, what I know, after the n1 stage, this condition works, xn minus x is less than epsilon. So if I want both the conditions to hold simultaneously, which natural number out of these two I will pick up? This idea has been already explained in the previous result, right? So I will pick up the maximum of both of the natural numbers n and n1, and for that maximum both the conditions will be true, right? So I will choose some notation we need, let's say n naught, say choose n naught to be maximum of the capital N and the natural number n1 that we just obtained. Now for this n naught, after this stage n naught, yn will be equal to xn, and this inequality will also work because I am picking maximum of both the natural numbers, right? Therefore for all natural numbers n bigger than or equal to this n naught, okay, why only n? Let's use some other notation, let's say k I will use here. Okay, for all k bigger than or equal to n naught, okay, yk is equal to xk, and difference between xk minus x is less than epsilon. I'm just replacing n by k. Okay, that's, I felt like changing the notations, I did that. If you are not comfortable with small k, you can also use small, right? Now what we wanted to prove, we wanted to prove that the sequence yn converges to x, right? When do you say that a sequence yn converges to x? Given epsilon positive, I should be able to find a natural number such that after the natural number, the difference between the terms yn and x is less than epsilon. This is what I have to establish to say that the sequence yn converges to x. Now if you see this natural number n naught, the capital N naught that I obtained, then for n bigger than or equal to n naught, okay, for n bigger than or equal to n naught, I will look at this difference. Okay, we will show that this n naught that I got here is actually the required n naught for the convergence of Yn. So for n bigger than or equal to n naught, you look at Yn minus x. Okay, but what do we have in the previous step? Whenever I take a natural number k which is bigger than or equal to n naught, I know that yk is equal to xk. And now I am taking a natural number n which is bigger than or equal to this n naught, same n naught. That means after this n naught, yn I can replace it by xn, right? So this is same as xn minus x. And from the second condition here, whenever I take a natural number k which is bigger than or equal to this n naught, xk minus x is less than epsilon. And I already have a natural number n which is bigger than or equal to n naught. That means xn minus x is less than epsilon, right? So finally, what did we prove? Therefore, given epsilon positive, there exists a natural number n naught such that for all n bigger than or equal to this n naught, the difference between yn and x is less than epsilon. What does this mean? That's the definition of convergence of a sequence Yn, and this tells me that the sequence Yn converges to x, right? So the conclusion from this theorem is this. Okay, I will put it as a remark. Altering finitely many terms of a sequence does not change the convergence of the sequence, does not affect the convergence of that sequence. Okay, what this means is, if I have a sequence, let's say xn, that is, let xn be a sequence such that xn converges to a point, let's say a. Okay, and I have this sequence xn now. What I will do to this sequence xn, I will write the terms x1, x2, x3. Let's say x100 I reach, x101, x102, and again it keeps on going, right? What I do is, I remove the first 100 terms of that sequence. I just delete them from the sequence. Understanding? So that means I will be getting a new sequence now whose terms are starting from x101, x102, and so on. Right? After deleting the first 100 terms, I will be getting a new sequence that is x101, x102, x103, and so on. The new sequence that we obtain here by deleting the first 100 terms will always converge to the same limit where the original sequence was converging. That is the point E. Okay. So altering, meaning removing finitely many terms or changing finitely many terms of the sequence does not change the convergence of the sequence. If the original sequence was converging, then the new sequence will also converge. And why only 100? You can remove any finitely many terms from the sequence and still the sequence will converge to the same point. Even if you remove 1 lakh terms from the sequence, the new sequence that you get will also converge to the same limit. Okay, so this proves property number 2. So this finishes property number 2. Next we have the third property. Before stating the third property, I would like to give a remark. Supposing I have a sequence xn, okay, and the terms of the sequence will be x1, x2, x3, and so on. Okay, so given any sequence xn, we can define another sequence. Using this sequence, I can define another sequence mod xn. This is also a sequence. Okay, but only difference is it is having a mod there. For each term, it is going to have mod as follows. So we define mod xn as follows. So mod xn, this sequence, its terms will be the terms of the sequence x1 only, xn only, that is x1, x2, x3, x4, and so on. Only difference will be that each and every term will be having a modulus here, right? So given any sequence to me xn, this mod xn is another sequence, and it is the same sequence as the original one, but for each and every term of that sequence we will put a modulus sign. Okay, so for example, if you take this sequence, if you consider xn is equal to minus 1 raised to n, this sequence, then how do the terms of this sequence look like? Minus 1 1, minus 1 1, minus 1 1, and so on, right? Then mod xn will be the sequence modulus of minus 1 raised to n. Okay, modulus of minus 1 raised to n, and this will be modulus of minus 1, modulus of 1, modulus of minus 1, that's a straight line. I think I've not written that line properly. Yes, so modulus of minus 1, again modulus of 1, modulus of minus 1, and this keeps on going, and mod of minus 1 is 1, mod of 1 is 1, so all these terms are 1, and finally we are getting a constant sequence, right? So this is how mod xn can be defined from any given sequence. Okay, so let's look at the next result now. This says let xn be any sequence of real numbers. Okay, then this result has three parts, very simple parts. The first one says if the sequence xn converges to a point x, then if the sequence xn converges to the point n, then the sequence mod xn will converge to the modulus of the limit of the sequence. Okay, and converse need not be true. Okay, but its converse need not be true. Now what do you mean by the converse need not be true? If mod xn converges to mod x, then I cannot say that xn converges to x. Okay, it only works one way. It's an implication, one-sided implication. So we will assume that xn converges to x. Let epsilon greater than 0 be arbitrary point, some point be given. What we want to prove? Mod xn converges to mod x, right? So we need to prove that modulus of xn converges to modulus of x. But what is given to me? It is given to me that xn converges to x, right? So since xn converges to x, for this epsilon positive which is given to me, there exists a natural number n such that for all n bigger than or equal to this natural number n, by definition of convergence, mod xn minus x will be less than epsilon, right? This is from the information that xn converges to x by definition of convergence of a sequence. What we have to prove now? We have to prove the definition for this sequence mod xn. Okay, so what we have to do? We have to find one natural number such that modulus of this mod xn minus mod x is less than epsilon after that natural number. Okay, but in the first chapter we did one property which said modulus of a minus modulus of b is less than or equal to modulus of a minus b. This is from chapter number 1. Okay, the real number system. So I can use this property here now, where a will be nothing but xn and b will be nothing but x. Okay, so for all n bigger than or equal to this capital N, same n which I obtained for the first convergence here. Okay, I can skip this for now. So from this, what do I know? Modulus of xn minus modulus of x is less than or equal to modulus of xn minus x. If xn is equal to a and x is equal to b, I am applying this result, right? And this one xn minus x is less than epsilon for all n bigger than or equal to this capital N, and this is less than epsilon for all n bigger than or equal to capital N. So what did we do? Finally, we showed that modulus of xn minus modulus of x is less than epsilon. See, from here, that is less than epsilon for all n bigger than or equal to n, and this natural number capital N is the same n that I got here. Okay, therefore modulus of xn converges to modulus of x. That is what we proved. Okay, so if the sequence xn converges to x, then modulus of xn will converge to modulus of x, right? But the converse need not be true. So we have to give an example in which the converse is not true. Okay, so we have to choose a sequence in which mod xn converges to mod x, but xn does not converge to x. That is what we have to show. All right, so you consider the sequence xn is equal to minus 1 raised to n for all natural numbers n. Then what is modulus of xn? If I take modulus of each and every term here, it will be 1, right, for all n. So this will be a constant sequence. That's a constant sequence, and a constant sequence always converges to that constant value. So modulus of xn will converge to 1, and 1 is same as modulus of 1. Therefore modulus of xn converges to modulus of 1. But if you see the sequence xn, it does not converge to 1, as we have already shown that this sequence xn equal to minus 1 raised to n is divergent, right? So if a sequence xn, modulus of xn converges to modulus of x, that happens here, but xn is not converging to that particular x. Okay, and this is an example for that. It's called a counter example. In general, the converse does not work, but under special conditions the converse also works. And what is that special condition? If that limit x which I am talking about here, x and mod x, if that x is 0, then the converse will also work. Okay, so that's a special case, and I will put it as second part of the Same theorem. Xn converges to 0 if and only if mod xn converges to 0. Now you will have both the cases, and this works only when this limit x is 0. Okay. So in property 1 we have already shown the first half. So if xn converges to 0, then mod xn will converge to mod of 0, which is equal to 0. So this is by the first property which I did just above this. Right? This is what we proved. Now conversely, the converse was not holding in general. So now let's assume that mod xn converges to mod 0. Suppose mod xn converges to 0. We have to show that xn converges to 0. Right? Now what do you mean by mod xn converges to 0? Therefore, given epsilon positive, I can find a natural number n naught such that for all n bigger than or equal to this n naught, modulus of this minus 0, that is modulus of xn minus 0 is less than epsilon, right? This implies that 0 mod xn minus 0 will be mod xn only. So modulus of xn I have. This will be less than epsilon. In fact, for all n bigger than or equal to that n naught only, I can state it here. So that implies for all n bigger than or equal to n naught, I am simplifying this, right? And modulus of a number is that same number, because when I take the first modulus, this number is already positive, and then again I am taking its
And
number.
these
So
are
that's
my
positive,
references.
and that is equal
Thank
to
you.
modulus of xn, right? So I can write this as mod xn is less than epsilon, and then I can just insert the point 0 there, and I am done. So what did we do? Given epsilon positive, we found a natural number n naught such that for all n bigger than or equal to n naught, modulus of xn and 0 is less than epsilon, and that shows that the sequence xn converges to the point 0. Clear? So if the limit is 0, then the first statement will reduce to this, and it will be a if and only if, and both sides the implications will be working well. Okay, so that's what we proved here. I hope that's clear. So these were some properties of convergent sequences. There are some more properties to be discussed, which I will include in the next lecture. Okay, I hope that's clear. You can post your doubts in the comment box.
And these are my references. Thank you.